The Battle of Dunkirk officially started on May 26, 1940, but the conflict between the Allies and Germany had started many years before. Dunkirk is located off the shores of the North Sea, near the Belgian-French border. Since the beach was so close to a body of water, it was a hotspot for trading, but it also meant it was the site for battles to occur. This all started when the phony war ended on May 10, 1940. It ended with Germany invading and holding Luxembourg in a day, the Netherlands by May 14th, and Belgium by the end of the month. Their next stop was France. The Allies expected an attack along the Maginot Line, but it never happened. Instead, the attack came from the Ardennes Forest, moving along the Somme Valley. As they advanced, German troops cut off all communication and transportation routes, pushing hundreds of thousands of Allied troops into a small sliver of the north coast. This would set the stage for one of the most amazing miracles in the war. On Britain's side, Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain resigns as a result of the stress. This allows Winston Churchill to come into the game. Nobody wanted an evacuation. But once Allies were 10 kilometers from the Belgian border, there was no other option. They had to leave. On May 24th, a much-needed surprise came for the Allies. Adolf Hitler called off the attack. This gave the Allies much-needed time to set up the evacuation. The ceasefire lasted for 2 days until May 26th, but it was already enough time to prepare. Operation Dynamo was a go. On the evening of May 26th, the evacuation began. It was a 9-day job, and it was very slow because of the Luftwaffe's bombing. It was called Operation Dynamo because of the room it was created in. On the first full day of evacuation, only 7,500 men were able to evacuate. The next day, 10,000 men got out. It wasn't very fast because the Navy couldn't get any of their big ships into the harbor. They had to use leisure boats, approximately 800 to 1,200, to help bring soldiers to safety. In the end, 198,000 British troops and 140,000 French troops were managed to get off the beach. This totaled 338,000 men. An additional 90,000 troops stayed back to help fight. But by the morning of June 4th, German troops occupied Dunkirk. After Germany took Dunkirk, what happened to the 90,000 men? Le Paradis massacre was what happened. It began on May 27th. 99 soldiers from the Royal Norfolk Regiment retreated to the village of Paradis. Here, they surrendered and were thrown into a pit with machine guns aimed at their heads. German Captain Fritz Knocklin gave the order to fire. Miraculously, only 2 managed to survive, Albert Pooley and William O'Callaghan. They lay dead until nightfall and got their wounds tended to in the farm. In the end, Captain Knocklin was found guilty of a war crime and was killed by British forces. While the Germans' blitzkrieg was exactly and extremely successful, the evacuation proved to be a key moment in the war. The miracle at Dunkirk became a rally cry for the rest of the war. Winston Churchill said this in one of his speeches after Dunkirk.
"We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender."
This means Churchill knows that the war is not over just yet. They will need to fight back. In the aftermath of Dunkirk, thousands of French troops were either left behind, killed, or taken prisoner. They lost 68,000 soldiers, either dead, wounded, missing, or captured. British soldier Charlie Waite was taken prisoner and faced the horror of the work camps. He was given very little food and extremely mistreated. In this quote, he says, "But in 1945, we had the additional challenge of one of the coldest winters on record that January, of having suffered years of misery, fear, exhaustion, and starvation, and if watching fellow men die and helping to bury them by the roadside. These are the things you never forget." The German army ended up taking control of France on June 14th, just 18 days after Dunkirk. Germany only had one place left in Europe to take, and that was Britain. The Dunkirk spirit came in handy here. Churchill used this to help spread the word and motivate others to fight. August 20th. Churchill went on the air one more time to deliver a message that would echo throughout Britain.
The gratitude of every home in our island, in our empire, and indeed throughout the world, except in the abodes of the guilty, goes out to the British airmen who, undaunted by odds, unwearied in their constant challenge and mortal danger, are turning the tide of the world war by their prowess and by their devotion. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few.
The Germans kept bombing until May 1941. The RAF held them off and eventually won. The threat of an invasion was gone. Britain had won. Canada's role in this battle was to provide boats and sailors to help transport captured soldiers. Many Canadian citizens were asked to give up their boats to save the troops. The 2nd Canadian Infantry Division's 6th Brigade and 5th Brigade were the two leading participants for Canada. Without Dunkirk, none of this would have been possible. Britain needed Dunkirk because they needed to hold off until 1941, which was the attack on Pearl Harbor. Dunkirk was a saving grace. It proved that fighting is not always the right way to win. It showed that the Allies needed to be smart and needed to think strategically in order to claim victory, even if it means running away and coming back. This would be the start for a whole new side of the Allies. Dunkirk changed everything. They laid the foundation for all the battles to come. Without it, the war would have been completely different.